Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. Our topic for discussion today is perspectives on Black August. Our guests for part one of today's broadcast are two brothers with strong, activist-oriented legal minds. All right? Retired attorney and businessman Mohammed Bashir, and still practicing attorney Naji Mujahid. Our brother Mohammed is no stranger to Salam Media. He's been on the broadcast several times. Our brother Naji is a first-time guest. Later in the broadcast, we will have a one-on-one Black August empowerment conversation. And I emphasize the word empowerment with another good brother of ours, Tariq Ibn Jamil Lang. August is a month that has great symbolic significance for the African American human rights struggle. The prison activism and subsequent death of George Jackson at the hands of prison guards on August 21st, 1971, is what planted the seeds for the recognition of a movement termed Black August. This month bears other notable markers in African American struggle as well. On August 21st, 1831, an enslaved freedom fighter by the name of Nat Turner led an insurrection in Southampton, Virginia. August 27th, 1949, was the date when the Honorable Paul Robeson's presence in Peekskill, New York, for a human rights-oriented concert triggered a race riot that lasted for several days. Robeson, an internationally renowned African-American star of stage and screen, was known for his civil rights activism, his strong pro-trade and union stance, and his affiliation with communism and anti-colonialism. His principles and politics made him a target of his own government. August 28, 1963, was the date for the historic and highly successful March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, led by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other leaders connected to the quote-unquote Big Six civil rights organizations as they were known back in the day. This was followed just days later, I think it was about 2 weeks later to be exact, by a response from the white terrorists in the South. There was an attack, a domestic terrorist attack on a black church in Birmingham, Alabama, the 16th Street Baptist Church, a bombing that took the lives of 4 little black girls, 14-year-old Cynthia Wesley, 14-year-old Carol Robertson, 14-year-old Addie Mae Collins, and 11-year-old Denise McNair. It is worth noting that Black August was born out of an era that has great significance for immigrants of color as well. The Islamic the Islamic Society of North America, or ISNA, as it's known by its acronym, will be celebrating its 60th anniversary over the upcoming Labor Day weekend. An anniversary that might not be possible were it not for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, followed by the Immigration Reform Act of 1965, which abolished the national origins quota, eliminating national origin, race, and ancestry as a basis for immigration to the U.S. It made discrimination in obtaining visas to enter the United States illegal. This swung open the door for immigrants of color and of varying cultural and religious heritage to have the same access that white Christian immigrants had been able to enjoy. The legislation was signed into law on October 3rd, 1965 by President Lyndon B. Johnson, a law inspired and facilitated by the African American-led human rights struggle in the U.S. Now, in the final minutes of today's broadcast, we will have a very, very important Black August empowerment conversation. I want to emphasize that point again. And with that being said, without any further ado, I want to show a little clip. And now, I never saw the movie that this trailer clip that we're about to see is connected to. I never saw the movie, but I found the clip in a rush interesting. So we want to show this clip to kind of help lay the foundations for the discussion that will follow, and then just go on with the program, inshallah ta'ala. Let's see the clip, Brother Sadiq.
You've never been pushed up against the wall.
How you feel? Fine, sir. How you feel?
Fine, sir.
How do we get access to this, Jackson?
His lawyers say they can get me in posing as a legal investigator.
Hey, stay strong, George. Power to the people.
He honed his writing skills, reading various revolutionary theorists during 4 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah, 2 hours.
I've been waiting for this for a long time.
We need brothers who can maintain their self-respect and have true strength.
Do you understand that there cannot be a peaceful revolution?
The gunman also stated, "We are the revolutionaries. The Soledad brothers must be freed."
Hi, David Dreyer.
So George said it was okay to look at them. Which ones do you want to see?
All of it.
That was him.
This here is Jonathan. He's Comrade George's younger brother.
On the morning of August 7th, 1970, Jonathan Jackson walked into the Marin County courtroom. He announced that he was taking over, adding, "This is it. Everybody freeze."
We did it, man! I think we made it, man! They're holding up, I think!
So they got my little brother, huh?
Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry about your brother.
They will live through, you got it. I'll see to that.
All right, ladies, lights out.
Because this is the revolution and we are the vanguard.
Okay, we're off to an exciting start. Let's bring our brothers on, Brother Mohammed Bashir and Brother Naji Mujahid. Assalamu alaikum to you both.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the edition of a conversation with your brother El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. Alhamdulillah. I want to begin with you, Brother Naji, given the fact that both of you are lawyers. Both of you are trained lawyers. Our brother Muhammad is now retired, but you, my brother, are still practicing, and you have an activist-oriented kind of orientation with your practice of law, which is what I favor, of course, and have deep respect for. But you also, and we've known each other for a good number of years. I remember when you were in law school.
It's been about 20 years.
Colombia, yeah, for at least 20 years, yes. And so alhamdulillah, it's been a pleasure to see how my brother Naji has really developed, over the years. I mean, I had a lot of respect for you as a young brother just coming up, and now you are a seasoned lawyer, and you've maintained your activist orientation. Let me let me start with you, because you were part of an organized effort years ago uh, to you did a lot of programming. You and in conjunction with a number of others that celebrated and reminded the community of the significance of the month of August and this commemoration known as Black August. So let's talk a little bit about that first, brother. Let's start there.
Well, so I think the concept of political prisoners I learned in the advocacy that was taking place in D.C. by Masjid al-Islam, Imam Musa. May Allah be pleased with him, as well as yourself, around Imam Jamil Alameen, formerly H. Rap Brown. And so I think that was when I first became familiar with the concept. And from there, I got involved in political prisoner advocacy. I was very, not just fascinated, but also and encouraged and excited by it, just to learn about these people who had put their lives on the line in the freedom struggle, with full commitment and fearlessness, and how people, the people on whose behalf that they would act and advocate and fight, had kind of forgot about them in these dungeons, so to speak. And so that was that. And then I started working with, I started college, and I was a journalism major originally. And I took an internship with a grassroots organizing outfit called the DC Radio, a grassroots radio outfit called the DC Radio Co-op. This is back when I was started on Voices with Vision on WPFW. And my first assignment during my internship was to cover there was a press conference for the San Francisco 8 with attorney Sophia Elijah, who was their lead attorney at the time, and she had done work around other political prisoners as well. And so that, beginning there also put me on the path, to law school. My interest in law school had to do with my own contact with the police and criminal justice involvement on the one hand, but also seeing, these attorneys that represented political prisoners and movement lawyers in the freedom struggles on the other hand. And then I think around 2006, just in internet researching certain topics, I came across this archive radio program from WRFG in Atlanta, where they did, I think it was like 3 days worth of radio programming that they did around Black August. So that was the first time I'd heard of Black August. Like, that was about 2006. And I thought to myself, man, like, people should know more about this. I never heard about this nowhere. And so, often we come up with ideas, well, people should do this, people should do that. And, on one hand, we don't always have the bandwidth to do what we think other people should be doing. But in this case, the light bulb came on. It was like, well, if nobody else is doing it, or here in DC anyway, I'm going to do it. And so I, talked to some other people about it, and we co-founded the Black August Planning Organization, where we would plan events, during the month of August, and to some extent throughout the year, to highlight, this to highlight this observance, this commemoration, and to try to instill and push and share with people the ideals of, reorienting people and to the struggle, to the history of it, reinvigorating people to get involved, which is one of the principal things that Black August as a concept was about. Like, it didn't start with, at the same time the movement started. It came as a result of the repression that was visited upon the prison movement in California, and there was a law that was created of discouragement and just exhaustion and overwhelm. I think, with the people, like it got bloody. Like a lot of people were killed, attacked, assassinated, moved around, put in solitary, given enormous amounts of time and stuff like that. And so people had gotten, under the weight of that, like had gotten away from the movement. And so Black August came as a concept to reorient people to that, to charge them up, and interestingly, there are a lot of parallels. There were Muslims involved, and so you see the Islamic influence on Black August because you take this month like Ramadan, and what they would read the works of George Jackson in the same way that we read the Quran. They would fast and do other things of that nature that like I said, is very similar to Ramadan. So you see the Islamic influence there, and so like that's how I got started. I don't want to be overbearing on the mic, but at one point I do want to address the film clip that you showed opening up the show, but I can save that.
Well, please go ahead and address that. Your thoughts on that clip now, because like I said, this was my first time seeing it. I never saw the movie, and I just thought it was interesting, just to say the least. What is your take on that?
Well, I have seen the movie. In fact, we did a showing of the movie when it first came out, just to use it as a talking piece, kind of like we're doing now. But we received permission from the Black August Organizing Committee, which was an organization that was developed by people who were in the Black guerrilla family with George Jackson, who was in the California prison and who took it upon themselves to be the quote unquote official historians and keepers of Black August, so that it would stay true to its form. Because as we see now, it's becoming a bit more popular. People are knowing about it. And so, it then can be threatened by commercialism and just being watered down and people taking it and running with it, but running in the wrong direction with it. And so the Black August Organizing Committee committed itself to making sure that that didn't happen. And they were very, very critical of the film. I have the statement that they put out about the Black August movement on our old website, which is still active, blackaugustpo.org, like Black August Planning Organization, blackaugustpo.org. You can find the statement there. I'll just read the first paragraph. Like I said, these aren't my thoughts. This is coming from them. These are coming from people who originated Black August. And it says, to say the movie was a sham would be too much like lending it credibility through negation. The production of this movie is a direct attack on the true origins of the original concepts of Black August as put forth by those sincere and steadfast revolutionary individuals who died standing firm within the California's concentration camps. The many brothers left in isolation behind the walls who still live half lives due to their commitment to collective revolutionary ideals have no connection to or input in any aspect of this concoction. They have suffered these decades in obscurity for faithfully commemorating all of the principles embodied in why the original Black August was conceived. This movie is an insult to the memory of Comrade George Jackson, W.L. Nolan, Cleveland Edwards, Alvin Jugs Miller, Fred Billingsley, the man-child, Comrade Jonathan Jackson, James McLean, William Christmas, and those not named who gave their last breaths so that the indomitable will and spirit of revolutionaries to come would know the path. The people who put together this collection of indictments against true revolutionaries, both gone and surviving, have no knowledge or understanding of the times or characters of the individuals portrayed. The movie co-signs the inaccurate and fictional account of people, places, and most especially events the state invented and encouraged the mass media to spread far and wide. Law enforcement has a new tool that is remarkably well suited to discrediting the accomplishments and continued efforts of actual Black August members. I'll stop there. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but okay, you get the idea. So yes, it was a scathing critique of that particular film. And so I just wanted people to know that. I mean, go watch the film. Like, you can see it for yourself, but just know that the real people who were a part of the movement for which that film was portrayed had very negative things to say about it. One thing you hear that George Jackson snuck a pistol into segregation in his afro and stuff like that, like just very ridiculous things. So, and that's portrayed in the movie, like these what they refer to as fictional accounts. That was a state-sponsored account of what happened on that day and during that time.
Yeah, it was state propaganda. Well, thank you very much for sharing that perspective. So anyone who, like me, has seen that clip for the first time and may be interested in seeing the movie, make sure that you factor what our brother just shared into your, your thought banks as you review that piece of propaganda that was made many years ago. Brother Muhammad, let's bring you into the conversation, my brother. What are your thoughts? What is your perspective on Black August, on this commemorative event that serves as a reminder to our people, those who want to be woke, as we say, to the realities of struggle?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, assalamu alaikum to the brother. I loved everything that you had to say there. I agree wholeheartedly with the assessment that you read about the movie. I saw the movie as well. I think the word that you use that is probably most important is commemorative. And as long as the Black community continues to control the narrative, it will always remain a commemorative. I think what you're seeing now is just like with every other thing that has the potential to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually transformative. When the culture gets a hold of it, they begin to try to turn it in a way that is uniquely suited to downplay the transformative nature of what was attempting to happen with Black August and what the founders of Black August originally intended. I remember reading, I don't know if it was blood in my eye or a letter from George Jackson or whatever. Maybe it might have been a speech, but it comes to mind because I kind of tried to emulate the thought process throughout law school. And that was, he was saying that they attempted to transform the Black criminal mentality into a Black revolutionary mentality. And I always took that to court with me to try to change the Black criminal mentality into the Black revolutionary mentality. That, it's interesting because that's consistent with Islam. I'm going to change the way you see the world, even if just by you seeing me. I have to be better at what I do so that maybe that will change at you being better at what you do. And that particular line always stuck with me, which is why I always tried to follow that which was coming up in the concept of Black August. Again, you just seen with Juneteenth, you just seen with the memorial with Emmett Till, someone else, some other community trying to grab hold of the narrative as to what that means for our community. And as long as the concept remains a commemorative, you get a chance to look back at the history and see the essence of what it was that they were trying to do. The Black Guerrilla Family, the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, people who were intimately connected to the struggle and making sure that the people who struggled, fought, and died, that they were recognized and that you commemorate them with the idea that you will pick up the banner or take the baton and move the struggle forward. And I think that's why it has to remain a commemorative as opposed to what they try to do here, make it a holiday or make it a celebration or anything like that. Keep it as a commemorative, and the people will constantly remember. They will have to look back and find out who Jonathan Jackson was. They will have to look back and find out why Soledad Brother, what it means, who the Soledad Brothers were and what the concept was. The idea of if you go back to the history, go back and as the brother indicated, there was actually stories being told that George Jackson smuggled a gun into the jail in his afro. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was their way of writing a history so they would have an excuse to assassinate him, and that's the nature of what happens. And we have to be very mindful whenever we have something like a Black August of someone else controlling the narrative, taking over the narrative so that they can transfer how we see ourselves or the next generation sees that particular struggle of Black August. So.
Brother Muhammad, how relevant, well, let me rephrase that. How great is the need for our community today, first and foremost, and then the communities beyond our community, to understand the significance of Black August, and what Black August has come to represent historically most importantly, historically? How important is that?
All right. This is going to be a little bit of an esoteric answer, but try to follow me. You mentioned in your opening the Immigration Act of 1965. And so therefore, I'm going to address it from the terms of the Muslims who have come into America on the back of the struggle of the people who created your Black August, or the struggle in America for freedom, justice, and equality. If you don't know the history here, all you do is come to the country with an idea of what the country has told you about the country. Freedom, justice, and equality. The ideals. And as Dr. King would have told you, if you had listened to him when you came into the country, be true to what you say on paper is a theme that Black America has been telling the culture and America since the very inception of the Constitution. Be true to what you say on paper. And for one day, I challenge everybody, anybody, anywhere, go back and find one day in the history of America where it was true to what it said on paper relative to freedom, justice, and equality. And you will never find it. So now, when you begin to see why Black people are, one, in the condition that they are in, two, why it always seems to be Black people in the middle of the struggle for change, three, that the Muslim community here in America who are Aswad, who are indigenous, who are what's commonly referred to as Black, hold on to brotherhood tighter than you probably ever could imagine, that they get upset when you don't put your foot next to theirs, etc. It's because of the struggle that they have gone through to maintain brotherhood here. And so when you talk about things like Black August, all they do is shine a light on the serious struggle that was fought here and the nature of what it takes, to turn the ideal into the reality. The nature of what it takes. George Jackson is a frightening person in American history to those who want the Black community to live by the ideal as opposed to the reality. He represents the reality. The reality is you never live by the ideal, and we are going to do everything we can to change that and make a revolution the reality. And to me, that's the lesson that you take from it, especially if you're a Muslim, especially if you're an immigrant, and if you're a next generation Muslim or you're a Muslim who's born and raised here. The idea that he put forward, which has been put forward by others, but still reminded me, because he was, 29 when he was assassinated in 71. I just graduated from high school. So I'm knee deep in the revolutionary thought process. But we attempted to transform Black criminal mentality into a Black revolutionary mentality. Well, flip that and take it off of criminal, add maybe the Black hip hop mentality, current hip hop mentality, the Black gangster mentality, the Black whatever mentality, the Black political appeasement mentality into Black revolutionary mentality. When we get back to the thought process like that, America will change overnight, because again, America follows everything that the Black community does, good or bad. They don't have a culture without our music. They don't have a culture without our athletes. They don't have a culture without our scholarship. So wherever you go, you find the Black community. The question is, the only time they ever really joined in revolution was in some level of the 60s, and that was an appeasement kind of a revolution. But the only time they talked about revolution, except for maybe the Southerners who revolted in the Union, was when they decided they were going to join the Black community in the revolution of the 60s and the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Now, Brother Najee, our brother Muhammad just referenced, part of the needed intellectual the intellectual struggle that many of our brethren coming into the country, courtesy of the laws that were passed as a result of the struggle that took place here, that we were right in the heart of. Now, I'd like to segue from there to the internal struggle that we as a tribe, our African American tribe, needs to be about the business of engaging in, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters. You spent a number of years in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has one of the largest Muslim populations in the country. Regrettably, Philadelphia is also known for having a very destructive pathology that has taken the lives of a lot of young brothers and no doubt some sisters as well. But, I'm talking about Muslims now being lost as a result of the pathology that has gripped us, has saddled us down. I often think about the that quote, one of my favorite quotes of Frederick Douglass, where he said, a man, and of course this equally applies for a woman, is worked on by what he works on. He may carve out his circumstances, but his circumstances will carve him out as well. There is an absence of knowledge, an absence of awareness, an absence of value connected to Black struggle in this country. I mean, and that absence is rooted in ignorance. And again, the condition of of members of our tribe in cities like Philadelphia is a reflection of this. How, you spent a number of years in Philadelphia. What is your takeaway from those years spent vis-a-vis this question that I'm raising right now, revolving around the internal challenge that we have if
And just to be clear, are you talking about Muslims in Philadelphia and a lot of them being also
caught up,
like having one foot in the deen and one foot in the streets?
Yes.
Or are you talking about the
exactly
Wahhabi? Okay,
yeah.
Because there's the other thing too. I mean, as far as that's concerned,
and that other thing factors into it as well, in my opinion. But go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know how deep we want to get right now. But dealing with the first part of it, I think it's just unfortunate result of like I'm a convert or revert, as the case may be. A lot of us are, and so we chose Islam out of whatever it is that we was doing before Islam, whatever it is we were born into, whatever it is we were indoctrinated into and trained into, or whatever. We chose Islam for ourselves. But then when you have kids and you have grandkids, they aren't necessarily choosing Islam for themselves. They're just like born into it. And if there isn't a strong infrastructure to like really like model the deen and teach the deen and keep people and sheltered and insulated from all the other stuff that's going on, that happens. Like you may see like immigrant kids, like they was born Muslim, they've been Muslim, family been Muslim since going back to the prophet maybe, but like now they're just living in the dunya. So I think when you have the second, third generations, there may not necessarily be that that enthusiasm and zeal and appreciation for what the dean has to offer, because you didn't choose it, and it may not have even been like modeled for you properly or made or provided to you in a way that was palatable. So that could fall on the prior generations and mistakes that may have been made, whether well-meaning mistakes, just like we're all trying to figure it out, or some of it could have been irresponsible, negligent mistakes as well. But the dunya is it can be hard to compete with, whether it's it's Muslims. Like, I mean, like anybody who got any kind of morals is like looking around like, am I supposed to send my kid to the public school now? Like all this stuff that's going on. And so I think there's that. So people have Islam, but people also have poverty, and poverty has the effects that you can predict whenever you got a poor community. Like there might be drugs, gangs, violence. Not to mention a poor black community is dealing with racism and many forms that takes. So so people are responding to their social circumstances in the way that most people would wherever they are, but they just happen to have Muslim names, and they may go to the mosque and stuff like that, but it's not. It may not have taken root in the heart, that the way that it needs to. So I think, like that's what has to happen. Like people have to be. Well, I think that's the cause of what we're seeing. Just that you have a lot of second, third, even fourth generation Muslims who aren't really committed to the Deen, and to the extent that we're committed to the Deen as individuals, as a community, it will show. But when you see things that don't comport with the Deen, that means there's a lack of connection to it. And I guess we could get into perhaps why that is, but I think that's the short answer. That is just you got people who aren't really like connected and plugged in like that because they didn't choose it. They just inherited it. And there's so many Muslims in Philadelphia, it's like part of the culture. It could even be a fad. It could be like people are in it because everyone else is, not because. And then after a while, when you see Muslims on the corner in gangs selling drugs, like when I came to Philadelphia, I was in the public defender's office. So now I'm seeing Muslims who are accused of things, like Muslim, drug dealers, Muslim. I shouldn't say Muslim, like Muslims who have been accused of dealing drugs, like Muslims who may engage in like prostitution and things of that nature, and have other like kind of so like I never seen that in DC because the Muslims I was meeting in DC was like more or less practicing Muslims, and there may have been some of the other stuff, but like you weren't brought face to face with it as I am as an attorney, representing people for for these accusations. So that was mind blowing for me when I first started to see it. But but there's a culture where it's seen as not necessarily good, but like acceptable, normal to have Muslims who are doing these amoral, un-Islamic things. But they're still dressed Muslim. They got on thobes, they got long beards, they got short pants, they got izars on, they got miswax in their mouth and whatnot. So taking on the form, but not necessarily the function. And again, I don't want to be oppressive, but I can add some more, or I can just let the conversation flow. But I did have some other thoughts, but I want to be mindful.
Okay, alhamdulillah, and I'm glad you're being mindful because the time is getting away from us, and we have this final segment. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue this, but I want to hear from before we end this segment. I want to hear from Brother Muhammad Bashir, your thoughts on that question just raised, and how relevant could be our reconnection to this this type of history.
All right. And before if I could just get 30 seconds before we go
ahead.
Go now. Okay. So there's Ashura and the commemoration of Ashura and Muharram. Like there's a lot of parallels to why we see Black August as important as to why remembering what happened with Imam Hussein and the revolution that he led, that in his words, I'm rising against this tyrant, this Yazid, in order to reform the ummah of my grandfather, to encourage the right and forbid the wrong. And then everything that happened after that, in the same way that we look at Black August as a way to recall and remember everything that happened, it's the same way that some Muslims recall and remember everything that happened down to the details of what happened in Ashura and all of the principles and events that tied into that, and using that as a way to acclimate themselves to the principles of the Deen and how to practice it in a way that's sincere and meaningful. So I know we don't got time to go all into it, but I definitely encourage people to look closely at what happened on the 10th of Muharram to Imam Hussein in the events that happened after that, when the people with women and children were taken captive and marched through the streets, and what they did as a means to these ceremonies of majalis meetings and mornings, because that was the only way they could transfer the information and tell people what happened. They couldn't go out and protest. They had to like take the back door and let people know through their through the sorrow that was involved to get their ear, and then they could tell them. And that was all right. So I know I gotta leave it there. Now, I know that was more than 30 seconds, so my apologies.
It was a good 30 seconds. It was a good 30 seconds.
Brother Muhammad, your final thought, brother.
Think about it like this. What caused us to gravitate toward revolutionary thought, toward community service, toward standing up for political prisoners, as you do, for this brother to go to the public defender's office to serve the community? What caused that? Was it something inherent in us or something inherent in our teachings or in our times? I came up 60s, 70s, so it was revolutionary times. I wanted to be a part of that. Every kid wants to be a part of something. I don't care. Every kid thinks they can rap now. Or back in the 80s and 90s, every kid thought they could rap. Why? Because hip-hop was on fire. What is missing in our community is the willingness to take the lead. And I frankly attribute it to the fact that when we had the lead, Malcolm converts in 64, 65. The world is almost on fire at that time because Africa is seeking to decolonize, etc., pushing back against colonialism, etc. And now you have the most feared, for lack of a better way to put it, black man in the world coming into America to talk Sunni Islam, and only to find out when he gets assassinated that there are indigenous communities of Sunni Muslims here in America from the same tribe as him. Huh? That particular level of organization, etc., had to be shut down because there's no concepts out there in America or any place else in the world that America hasn't defeated, with the exception of Islam. So then, therefore, the question becomes, the images that we had that brought us into struggle, the education that we had that brought us into struggle, do we have that now for our kids? Do we have that now? Was it transferred over to the next generation? And as the brother said, there may have been some errors on some people in other generations, a generation like my generation, generation that came after mine, who were trying to find a way to fit in, to try to find a way to be appeasing to America. But the history is what gives you everything you need to know about this. The history of America and the history of struggle in America suggests that no matter where you go, if you are black in America, you have to continue the struggle and you have to push that struggle in front of your children. You have to make sure that the next generation understands the struggle. So the problem for me is the lack of our ability to transfer that which we know about America. That's what we know about Black August, that we know about Nat Turner, that we know about the Haitian Revolution in August, that we know about Black organizing, that we know about Soledad Brother, that we know about all this, that we push these things for the reason of that no one is willing to say the word change, complete overthrow, complete change in government. Why is it that Martin Luther King said we need a radical revolution of values in America in 68 and nobody took him up on it? Nobody's taking him up on it. They'll tell you about his dream, but they won't tell you about the radical revolution of values. You know who had the radical revolution of values? The Muslims. You know how they lost it? They turned over their fire, their brotherhood, their sense of brotherhood to other communities so that those other communities could fit into America and that they could all seek that level of brotherhood, as opposed to that brotherhood that said we have to leave because the people here do not have the consciousness, the morality, or the ability to lead because they don't have La ilaha illallah. Their ceiling is our floor.
We're going to have to leave it there for now. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have both of you brothers back with, perhaps a couple of others and hopefully in an expanded time frame, if not with Salam Media on another platform, so that we can just go deeper and take a much deeper dive into this issue for the benefit of the community, inshallah ta'ala. I want to thank you both for being with us today, and just stay with us in the background and listen to what our brother Tariq Ibn Jamil Lang has to say on another aspect of what we want to bring attention to in the month of Black August, inshallah ta'ala. So again, thank you. Let's bring our brother Jamil on so that we can talk about empowerment. We got about 15 minutes, Aki. We started.
Okay, so we're gonna go past the 3 o'clock.
We started a little late, so we're gonna we got 15 minutes, inshallah.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
We want to talk about what it is you do. Brother Tariq is a brother that I've known for a number of years. He's a brother here in the Washington, D.C. area that has his own business. He does very well. He is known for the good work that he does on many different levels. And we wanted this Black August conversation to go into an empowerment, a different type of empowerment, a kind of a range. And so specifically, I wanted to talk about trade. I want to talk about the importance of African-American brothers and sisters understanding that there is an option beyond the college degree, other than the college degree, for being able to earn a good living, to take care of yourself, your loved ones, and to also contribute to the welfare of your community. Brother Tariq, let's talk about what it is you do and what got you into what it is you do for a living.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I mean, I was sitting in the back listening to the brothers, and I'm a revolutionary, so it's like I definitely wanted to join in the conversation. But revolution is change, and economics is a major part of a revolution. You can't have a revolution without economics. I always put up a post one time that the leaders they don't get financed by the revolution; they finance the revolution. And that's what my father and their generation, was about. It was about financing the revolution. Unfortunately, they were going in. Well, for them, they felt that America had owed them money because of back wages, and a lot of them were Native American, and they owed them back rent. So they just went out and took it, and so that was their way of financing the revolution. But my generation, basically financing the revolution, has to be through your economics and doing well. Actually, initially I started on the academic program, went to Boston University. I was doing biomedical engineering, and then I did like 2.5 years, and I left and did electronic technology and got into as a biomedical technician working in the hospital. But while I was in college, I did asbestos removal, and that introduced me into the construction phase. And then when I moved to DC, I got into it, and I got with a company that had contracts with the State Department doing embassies, doing asbestos and hazardous waste and other forms of hazardous waste. So I got into that industry, and then got into the construction industry. And so, I started different businesses, mentored people. I learned a lot with federal contracting, working with that company, Abatement Environmental Resources, back in the day. So, but one of the things is also I volunteer in the prison. Listen to the brother talking about what he was doing, helping out the people. I'm definitely going to follow up with him because we need help at DC jail as far as for the Muslims. We have a large population of Muslims in the prison. Probably 40% on a regular basis from the list consider themselves Muslim, which and you're talking about 2,000 inmates between CTF and CDF, or Central Treatment Facility or Central Detention Facility. And so this at Juma we have like 3 Jumas for it. So going back to the trades, the construction construction industry is something where construction industry. Sorry about that. Construction industry Yeah, construction. Okay, yeah, construction industry is something like, I mean, you make good money. Is, you know, I see the Latinos every morning. You go into work, you see them at the gas stations getting ready, and then you know, they've raising their whole families and developing whole societies, taking care, buying land in their other countries. And you know, we still hear our people still saying, "Oh, well, they work for nothing." And I you know, wanted to. I got a copy of the Davis-Bacon and you know scale for like places like Philadelphia. For asbestos, the workers, they're getting $55 an hour in Philly. Actually, a journeyman almost gets $100 an hour. New York, same thing, like $70 an hour. Electricians get $90-something an hour. So for federal governments, whether you're black, you know, white or Latino, you're going to get the scale. And so even when you downgrade to regular jobs, you're still getting good money. So the construction industry is something. And then especially even with a lot of brothers that have, you know, criminal records, it's something that they can get into. It's also something that you can be able to start your own business working, you know, for yourself, because if you can do electrical skills, you can go work for somebody because somebody always has some problems. So that needs to be taken care of. Plumbing skills, you can be able to work for somebody. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times they always just push everybody for the academic as opposed to the you know, the trades. But if we look at it, like in the District of Columbia, most of these homes were from people that were in the trades. And the DC was built by our people of African descent that had come from the slavery and well, during slavery, but even after they had come up here and took advantage of the opportunity as this place was expanding. You know, and it's unfortunate that many of our trade schools were eliminated, not allowing many of the DC residents, that's the code word for blacks, to be able to take advantage of all of this economic growth, all of this building that's going on. And now we have a lot of the immigrants doing that. So
how can, given the fact that, as you just alluded to, the trade related classes, you know, the skills training classes for stuff like, you know, carpentry and you know, electrical, the electrical trade and what have you, that, you know, these were, as you just alluded to, I mean, they were slowly taken away from, you know, the public school curriculum over the years. How can young folks that are interested in learning, you know, those types of skills, how can they go about getting them today?
I mean, you know, you have this, like, still they have some high schools that have some programs, I believe, because they closed a couple of the schools and they eliminated a lot of programs, which it should have never happened.
Yeah.
But they have unions. You can join the union. You have the electrical union. You can join. You have the regular laborers union. There's one over, I believe, or is a laborers union. So just all you have to do is just Google, you know, unions. And so and they have the program, apprenticeship programs that they have, and they want people to get involved. I think one of the major things for our people is having training classes as far as work ethics. You know, one of the things, the success of other groups, other people, and even us, there's similar to how we came from the South and then came up and we had our own work ethics. And then when you came up north, people started making money, you know, things changed. So a lot of these youths, they don't understand that, you know, they don't have that work ethic. You know, they don't understand the importance of coming to being to work on time. You know, if you paid $10 or paid $20 or $30, then you have to give that same type of effort and stuff. So a lot of training needs to be done on, as far as that with the youth. But like I said, the unions, even with the jobs, a lot of construction jobs, you can be able to go up there and talk with the people. You know, come with a hard hat, come ready to work and stuff, and say, you know, you're resident or whatever, and find out about the programs. Also, DOES, Department of Employee Services, they have a lot of opportunities, and you can go there and you can find out about it. And then, but typically for us, we used to have it that,
Yes,
you know,
brother.
it was passed on generation to generation, and we would teach our children, like the Latinos. These guys are not going to schools. You know, most, I mean, some are, but I'm talking about the majority of the workforce is because they were learned from the previous generation. And we stopped doing that.
Okay, you just mentioned, you said, was it DOES?
Yeah, Department of Employment Services. Yeah, District Department of Employment Services. That was
Okay.
changed in the, yeah.
Okay, all right.
But they have it. Yeah, you can go there and they have different programs that's there for it. I mean, even it's amazing. Like even with the juveniles, kids in the juvenile facilities, they have, you know, they pay for their college, they pay for their training school. They just have to find out. A lot of times we don't know about these opportunities, and that's what it is. So
Yeah.
it's important for us to inform the, you know, the community. And then, like I say, a lot of times people don't push towards the trades, but you know, when you're talking about these type of hourly wages, and I mean, you know, the whole thing is paying your bills. You know, it's better to be employed with a title that maybe not be the best title as far as, you know, status, than unemployed with a great title but no job.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it reminds me of that you know, that debate, that historical debate that went on.
With Booker T. Washington Du Bois, you know, and then because he was industrialist, and you know, I always tell people, I mean, you know, with W. Du Bois, okay, you know, with NAACP, wow, I mean, he was good, you know, and then he wrote a lot of books. But we look at Tuskegee Institute and how many people have graduated and how many families have developed over the past, you know, 100 plus years. Talking about 1881 is when they started, and here we are, you know, over 100 years, you know, 100, what is it, 140 years after. Think about the amount of people that have benefited from that place. And, you know, but they were still arguing that industrial and, you know, education. And it's unfortunate in America because of racism. A lot of times in these the other academic things, it's there, but for Black men, you know, they have a higher chance of being successful, you know, in the trades and independent with the trades. Like I said, but you know, go to college. But college is not for everybody, you know. But there's something for you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember many years ago, you know, not long after Imam Wahiduddin Muhammad assumed the leadership of the nation and it began its, you know, transformation. I remember one of his lectures where he spoke and uplifted Booker T. Washington and the you know, what he represented in terms of, you know, teaching our people back in the day and establishing, you know, that institute, the Tuskegee Institute, teaching our people how to do for self.
Yes.
How to do for self, how to build and how to create and how to just how to do for self on so many levels. And
right.
That is so important. Go ahead.
No, that was, I mean, that was our program. It's funny, you know, we were Republicans back then. And then when we became Democrats, we became dependent, you know, on a bunch of lies, you know. But when we were back then at the beginning, we were Republican and we did for ourselves. We established our own things. We built our own, like even with Tuskegee Institute, they built their buildings, you know. I mean, they bought the land and then they built their buildings. They learned their trades, and that's what they did. And we can still do this today, do for South. One of the things as being a member of the nation, my father, we were part of the nation. The nation was, you know, people talk about the ideology, the Al-Qaeda, and what's that? No, the fact is to be able to establish a nation. You know, for Marcus Garvey, it's establish a nation. We have to have a nation economically separate, you know, with the people making the money from the system, but a separate nation that we spend amongst each other. And that's the whole thing. There's always been groups of building a nation, you know. And so this effort has stopped because you was talking about earlier as far as the leadership. You know, we've had the leadership is not pushing to establish, you know, an economic nation amongst each other. And if you don't establish a nation, you know, economically, or you don't establish it, you really can't establish Islam, because a pillar of Islam is an economic thing, which is zakat. And that's the most ignored pillar of Islam that we have, but it is a pillar of Islam. So without that, without that one of the five, you don't really have Islam. And so you know.
Okay, brother Tarek, in the final minute, if a brother or sister interested in learning a trade, you know, doing what you have done, you know, so exceptionally well, alhamdulillah, and opening the door for your sons, is at least one of your sons.
Well, I mean, you know, it's funny. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it's funny because you had
and you can incorporate this into your final response in 1 minute. How, if someone wanted, you know, especially a young person wanted to get in touch with you to get some more guidance, how could they do that? So incorporate that into your response, inshallah, in your final minute. Go ahead.
Getting in touch with me. As far as incorporating into the response, it was funny. You had Muhammad Bashir, and you know, you had second generation and you had fourth generation right there, and you know, and the brother talked about, you know, he was the first generation, but some of the people in Philadelphia, the next generation, they don't feel the same. Well, if you have somebody like a Muhammad Bashir, where his father, first generation, was solid, and then he made his kids solid and took them to another level. And then the Bashirs and his family, they made the next generation solid. Now he's on the fourth generation that he had in his hands. And so this is what we have to do. Each generation has to build the next generation. And so for myself, that's what I focus on, working with the younger people, you know, mentoring other people in business and going through, my son being one, or son and daughter. And so as established businesses and other people, I've lent myself to different other younger brothers that have a business, and just walk them through the steps, you know, and for any type of business. So I'm, you know, I'm there. I mean, but
okay, so if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
You can send the email to targetlang@yahoo.com. Send me an email, and then I'll follow up with you. So definitely TARIQLANG@yahoo.com. So I appreciate it, brother. I know, you know, the time we didn't have it and stuff, but I definitely enjoyed the conversation. And the last thing that I wanted to say about August, Black August.
Yes.
Here we are in 2023, and what happened August 11th, 1971, when the younger brother George Jackson, you know, went in there and they kidnapped him. And I saw the picture. I saw somebody that actually had the picture of them with their rifles and everything. And I was want to say, you know, that's gangster. And I was just have a picture of these guys kidnapping the judge and taking out. That's gangster. These are young kids, right? Not this prankster stuff that the people are doing now. Now here, let's look at today, Black August, August the 5th, and 2023. And so revolution to them is busting a woman over the head with a chair, you know, and this type of thing. And they saying that this is freedom. So look at the difference where we were in the 60s when they were at that level and people were recognizing that and seeing revolution, where today, you know, somebody came to somebody's back, which is good, but it's all over the internet. It's all over the thing. This is saying they doing memes and different things or whatever with somebody with a chair, while these other young guys had revolution and they had rifles and other things and we're going to another level. So look how we've digressed so much that we're going to bust a woman over the head with a chair. I wasn't too cool with that.
Yes, subhanAllah. Okay, my brother. Thank you for joining us today, and may Allah Ta'ala bless us to be as impactful as we can on the generations that are coming up.
And I know I lost a lot of fans because of that one, but I'm good.
So we're going to close out now as we normally do. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good and exhort one another to truth and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.